Hello everybody, Austin Hill Shaw, founder of Creativity Matters and the author of The Shoreline of Wonder on Being Creative. And today we're going to talk about another aspect of Bay Area creativity and innovation, and actually one of the most powerful aspects of them all. It's one thing that you can look at and use, again, the Bay Area as a metaphor and something that you can apply definitely to your own life. It's a really powerful thing that took me years to figure out, and finally a person gave me a teaching on it, and I was like, wow, yeah, that more than any other thing about the Bay Area helps me to understand the absolute incredible variety and amount of creativity and innovation that's come out of this area in really a short amount of time. It's truly spectacular. And in order to understand this, we have to understand kind of the layout of the Bay Area itself. So a long time ago, I was a geography student and I came out from my home state in Colorado to study at the University of California, Berkeley. And I studied geography and a particular aspect of geography, which is called geomorphology, which is all about the evolution of landforms. During that time, I was also exposed to something that would become really significant later on in my life, and that was Feng Shui. Feng Shui is an Eastern cosmology and way of understanding the relationship between landforms and its energy. It's often used in architecture and laying things out in order to bring a harmonious relationship between the built environment and the natural environment around it. And really what Feng Shui means, it translates as Feng is wind and the other Shui is water. And it's the idea of, when you look out at the ocean, for example, you might see the effects of wind on the water in the terms of the ripples or the waves that are created, but you don't necessarily see the wind itself. It remains invisible. So Feng Shui is this really sophisticated system at looking at how certain things that we can't necessarily see directly have an effect on the way we experience our lives. And the teaching on Feng Shui that I received as it pertains to the Bay Area was incredibly powerful to me. So first of all, I just want to give you a sense of kind of a way of understanding the Bay Area first and foremost. As we know, the Bay Area sits on the west coast of the United States, and there's a fault system coming up here called the San Andreas Fault, which basically separates the North American plate, which is one of the largest plates in the world, and the Pacific plate, which is the other very large tectonic plates, okay? That's where our earthquakes come from. And the shape of the bay has been created by that movement of those plates over millions of years. And what it's left us with is basically an ocean over here, the Pacific Ocean, the largest ocean in the world, and the finite San Francisco Bay in here. We also have the Sacramento and San Joaquin rivers coming into it from this direction, okay? And if we go further to the east over here, we find this place called the Central Valley, which is one of the flattest places on Earth and produces a full quarter of all the produce produced in the United States. So it's a really highly active, highly cultivated place. All right, there's a lot of activity there, and there's a lot of agriculture. Okay, so now that's basically the point of view from the geology, the geomorphology of the bay. Now we can start to look at it at the level of Feng Shui and see how this starts to pertain to creativity. Okay, so for those of you who have been following me, you know that my basic definition of creativity is 1, connecting with the world, and 2, affecting the world in a meaningful way. Connecting with the world is that experience of creative insight, that aha moment that fills up with new ideas, new means of doing things, and new directions that we carry out. And then the affecting the world in the meaningful way is what I call manifestation. It's the way in which we go about bringing our creative insights into the world. It's the efforting, the activity that we do in order so that we can bring those, whatever it is, whatever inspiration we have, whatever gifts we want to bring into the world, right? Calling upon others, calling upon resources, all sorts of things. That's manifestation. So again, connecting with the world and affecting the world in a meaningful way is my basic definition of creativity. And there's also a space in the middle, which is connecting with the world and affecting the world in a meaningful way at the same time, which is the coveted experience of creative flow. And you've all been there, okay? We all have insights. We all know how to manifest in some way. And we've all, at some point in our lives, experienced that sense of receiving and connecting and doing at the same time, okay? Now, we're going to look at how the environment, how the geography of the Bay Area lends itself metaphorically and energetically to that actually happening on a daily basis here. It's so cool. All right? So, first of all, the Pacific Ocean is a representation of what they would call yin energy. Yin energy is sort of the beginning and end of everything. It's a representation of the absolute. Okay? It's shape-shifting, it's vast, it's feeling seemingly interconnected, but it's almost uninhabitable. Okay? You can't live in the Pacific Ocean. I mean, you could on a boat, but typically we tend to stick on the land. So it's a place that's uninhabitable, but yet vital for our very survival, right? And then over here, in the Central Valley, we have the ultimate, what they would call yang energy. And yang energy is associated with hot, dry, lots of activity, lots of cultivation. This is basically the world where people typically work in. Okay, this is the working aspect. And we have a whole valley here that represents just that. People are working on the land constantly in order to grow those products. This is not a wilderness. This is a highly cultivated, hot, dry landscape. A yang landscape contrasted with a wet, cold, shape-shifting, uninhabitable landscape over here. Well, both metaphorically and energetically, what the yin represents in terms of creativity is insight. Okay? The experience of creative insight for us is really, it's almost like a religious experience. It's a sense of connecting to something much bigger than ourselves. One of the best ways of understanding it are how the mystics see things, where they have a direct union with something larger than who they are, be it God, be it emptiness, be it the Tao. It's just this sense that suddenly your understanding of the world is much bigger. Just like what happens when you look out at the ocean and you feel this sense of one being incredibly small within this huge space. It's like the space is overwhelming. And yet there's something about it that we're all drawn to. There's so many coaching clients that I've spoken with before who talk about how they are enamored with the ocean. You know, they love to be on the beach looking out at the ocean. I also know from a gentleman by the name of Dr. David Rico, who's a practicing psychologist both in San Francisco and Santa Barbara, who works with a lot of surfers. And he says basically the surfers are, of all the subgroups of clients that he works with, are the one who are having genuinely mystical experiences more than anyone, because they're out there in the ocean interacting with these waves. Okay, and I can verify that. I've surfed for years, and it's kind of a magical thing. So again, the ocean represents insight, the experience of insight, something that's bigger than we can actually describe. Okay, and over here we have the active pole of creativity, which is manifestation. Again, this is affecting the world. Manifestation. There we go. Manifestation. Manifestation is affecting the world in a meaningful way. All right, the Central Valley as a place and the way it's worked on represents that. It symbolically and realistically represents that. So now, to understand the energetics of creativity in the Bay Area, all we need to see is that there's this opening called the Golden Gate. Right? There's also a place called the Carquinez Straits where these two rivers join and come through to the North Bay and the Central Bay over here. But basically, we have this energy from the Pacific Ocean coming through the Golden Gate. You can think of the classic fog, right? Coming through and mixing with this energy here. And I should say that there's a group of hills right here called the East Bay Hills, which create sort of a buffer between these two. Right? So this energy doesn't come rushing across like a windstorm. It comes around here and starts to mix with this. And what we get in this area is this incredible vortex of energy. Okay? It's hard to describe more than that. I first learned of this from a Taoist named Lu Ming, a person who set up acupuncture clinics, a person who started Feng Shui centers, who regularly goes out to people's homes and evaluates them so that they can be aligned more harmoniously with the world around them. And he's the one that pointed this out to me, that if you want to understand the Bay Area, first of all, there's no such thing as good or bad Feng Shui. All Feng Shui is suitable for different situations. But in the Bay Area, we have particularly unusual Feng Shui because we have this ultimate yin environment mixing with the ultimate yang environment. We basically have the insight mixing with the manifestation to produce all these amazing things. What I call the five qualities, the five core qualities of creativity, which are essentially imagination, wonder, patience, flow, and love. Those are the qualities that when you have these two poles coming together, you create a center by which the imagination can go wild. And we see that happening on so many different levels here. The levels of technology and scientific discoveries, and innovation and product development. It's all happening here. And this is the creative hotbed of the world. And some of it, of course, has to do with the people here. I've already talked about the convergence of East meets West over here. But there's this other component which has to do with the land itself. And I think that people who come to the Bay Area, who have lived here for a long time, they know that you feel that energy source there, and when you move away through it to the different directions, you start to notice it dissipate. So it's really palpable. You can really start to notice it. So I encourage you, whether you live here in the Bay Area or you're just visiting, you may notice just how different places make you feel throughout the Bay. Okay? And notice how they make you feel in comparison to where you've lived before. And you'll perhaps notice a difference. But more importantly, recognize what you can do to create more moments where you're looking out at ineffable, looking out at vast vistas, and just allowing yourself to be with them. And also notice, which most of us probably overdo, that the way in which you go about manifesting things, the way that you bring things into the world, these need to be balanced for us to really have truly creative lives. Okay? Most of us in the West, most of us modern human beings tend to be on the side of do, without necessarily working with the insights. And there's a smaller portion of the population that are stuck in insights. They have tons and tons and tons of ideas, but they don't bring them into the world. So that balance is key. That balance is key. So I hope this was helpful to you. I hope this was a service to you. Really encourage you to visit the Bay Area if you're not from here. And if you're here, boy, to partake in that. Go look at the Golden Gate and see how it feels. Go walk along the shoreline of there. It's amazing. And notice the way you feel when you're in Berkeley or Oakland, or you're up in the North Bay or down in San Jose. Every one of those places has conditions that are suitable for particular things. Okay, I won't go into detail on that. But anyways, so it's been really fun being with you. This is Austin Hill Shaw, encouraging you to connect deeply, to make a difference, and to inspire creativity in others. Thank you so much.